So I flew the new Battle over Endor Rebel ships. I flew all three of the A-wings, and I flew both of the standardized loadout B-wings. And I have thoughts. It's one of those things where I'd looked at several of these ships on paper, looked at the cards on the releases, and was really excited about them. And I had already done kind of a read-through of Lando's card, but it never really sinks in until you actually fly them on the table, right? So I'm looking at the X-Wings next, but I'm going to go ahead and talk through kind of my playthrough experience with the A-Wings, how they performed and what I thought about it, and just go from there. And long story short, I did not enjoy flying these A-Wings. Just to go ahead and a lot of this is my personal playstyle issues that kind of got in the way of really getting the most out of these. Right off the bat, I'll talk about the things they all have in common. All of them are on the well, so Arvel still no, they're on the pricier side with both Arvel and Tycho coming in at 4 points each, and then Gemmer coming in at 3 points, but for that initiative 2. And then they all also have the vectored cannons, so they have the turret, the front back turret, which is a cool thing. And I haven't flown with vectored cannons before, being relatively new to Rebels, so I kind of wanted to try it out and see how I felt, because I was thinking about putting that on some of these ships in my current practice squad where I have all custom A-wings, and just hadn't done it yet. Another piece that the buddy I practiced against called out is that it's a trap is a bit of a trap, because what that does is encourages you to fly all of these ships in kind of a tight formation, which reduces your board coverage and does make them more vulnerable overall. Or not more vulnerable, but less impactful on the table, unless they're putting out a lot of damage quickly and then sprawling, or putting on a lot of objective pressure in a specific place. I was running a 5 ship with the 2 B-wings wanted to fly right next to each other, and the A-wings wanted to fly right next to each other. It was a fun concept, so I enjoyed doing that. I called it the 2 lovers and a hammer, um, which was fun, but it really limited my board presence and put me in really bad positioning in the games that I played. So It's a Trap is a really nice perk, but it's one of those things you want to benefit from when it triggers, but not necessarily play around it unless there's a moment where you really need it. So you can spread all your ships out, but have them in places where they could converge to benefit from It's a Trap in really particularly sticky scenarios. I will say when I flew all 3 A-Wings together with It's a Trap, they were stupidly durable. These ships were absolutely incredible at tanking damage. I think I lost one of them in 2 full games, and that's in a 5-ship list where they were taking fire. So they really, really are durable. Arvel's ability of that heroic sacrifice, unfortunately, I was not able to use because I was not up against any large base ships. But his proton rockets, I did get off. That single shot proton rocket was nice. I think I used it in both games to pretty good effect. And then Arvel's ability here, while defending, you may gain a strain to change one eyeball result to an evade result. If he's only taking 1 shot, or he's already taken other shots, and this is the final shot he's going to take, that is absolutely insane. Like, taking a strain seems bad, but it's easy enough to clear a strain. It's just yeah, that just kind of gives you the benefit of the defense and you can choose when to use it. You don't have to use it, which is nice. And then I'm going to go ahead and talk about the action bars in a minute, but let's look at the other ships here. Well, actually, let's go ahead and jump straight to the action bar. So right here, you've got that barrel roll link to focus, link to red focus. So he has a barrel roll focus, which is terrific. So that really helped get off the proton rocket, because having that reposition and focus option together was really good. And you can also use the vectored cannon system phase reposition, especially since he's initiative 3, he's going to be moving first anyway. So you kind of know where the board's going to be when you line that up. So you do need to call your shots. He's not really a ship that benefits that much from proton rockets because it's hard to line those up. But being as dodgy as he is, you can fly him to get objectives. Just make sure he stays alive and get that proton rocket shot when you got it, and then use that rear cannon when you've got it too. And that is good, but he's a 4-point ship. So he is the single most durable A-Wing I've ever flown, but he's 4 points, and pure durability is not really enough for 4 points. So moving on to Tycho. So one of my primary ships that I fly the most in Rebels is the custom Tycho. I freaking love that ship. Flying him with, I usually fly him with HLC, and I don't fly him with vectored cannons. And his ability there is he can, as long as he has 2 or fewer stress tokens, he can still perform actions. So that is bananas. So he can do a sloop and then boost. No, he can sloop, focus, and then link that to a red boost because of the A-Wing chassis ability, which is completely bananas. And then I don't put proton rockets on him because it's single use and you'll never get to reload it, whereas HLC, I get a ton of play throughout the game. And now this Tycho is an interesting combo. So he has that proton rockets, then he has the ability to still shoot that proton rocket even while disarmed, which is awesome. But then also he is able to, let's see, and he has the disarm action on his bar. So he can focus reload focus reload, which adds the disarm, but gives you your rocket back, so you can just keep shooting. The biggest problem I ran into with Tycho, though, is that he doesn't have the actions to really benefit from that. You have to have a focus token on to fire a rocket. You have to do it, otherwise you can't. Um, you have to have an evade token to benefit from juke. So if you have this guy being very dodgy, you've got that juke. The boost to juke is, or boost to evade is a great combo for that. He has no reposition to focus action on that bar. Nothing. You can't boost focus, you can't barrel roll focus, you can't focus boost or barrel roll. Losing that chassis ability really, really, really hurt Tycho at I5. I don't think I ever got a single proton rocket shot off with this guy. And that could have just been me flying it poorly. And it was up against I6s, so it was a little bit harder to position in advance. But that was incredibly disappointing. And two, I also, because he has the recurring proton rocket, I usually left the turret in his back arc, just hanging out there to cover his rear. So there were many occasions where I almost landed the rocket, but didn't quite get it. And because it was out of bullseye and my turret was facing back, he didn't have any attack at all. So his damage was basically nothing. And that really, really hurt. So I was single most disappointing ship that I ran of all of these was this Tycho, which is a bummer because I love Tycho. And it was cool to try something different. And I really like this cool concept they've got of that proton rocket with the reload so he can keep doing the bullseye shot. A lot of that has to do with how I flew him. I think if I were to fly him again, I would definitely play a little more cagey as if you're trying to line up the rockets because he is very defensive as is. I'd probably put him in a squad where you have a way to pass him focus tokens or a way to give him those repositions that he needs to line up those bullseye shots because that's really good. And then he's one of the ships that has chaff particles, which is awesome. So if you already know you're not taking the hit, you can just use that to just remove tokens. And so that includes a disarm. So you could remove a disarm token from him too with that, even if so you say you take a shot from an I6, you roll 2 evades and an eyeball, they only have 2 hits. You can then spend that eyeball to turn it to a blank to remove your disarm, and then if you shoot back at I5, you could use your full 5-die proton rocket. So there's a lot here, and I get why he was changed the way he is and why his action bar is the way it is, so that he doesn't become oppressive, because he could be a really nasty ship. But losing that reposition to focus really killed it for me. I couldn't fly it. And again, that's personal. That was me. That's my personal issues with flying this. I just couldn't pull it off. And then I will say, though, thinking about it further, he would be really, really good flying with this Lando because you have that coordinate. You have the option to coordinate at I6. There's a lot of things this Lando can do to support that Tycho that would make it worth kind of the 2 ships together. That said, I really like Tycho as an independent operator, and his 4-point custom is a fully independent operator that needs no support from anyone, which is phenomenal. And this doesn't have that. So now to the best performer of all of them, I really enjoyed Gemmer Sojan. So similar level of durability to Arvel, also has that chaff particles, and also has the ability here, while defending you may gain 1 strain token to change up to 2 of your blank results to eyeball results. So really, really loves to have a focus. Doesn't have any linked actions, right? Because that would be a lot. So Gemmer is the one I would definitely like to include, and also has the low attack value, but pretty great precision-tuned cannons, which gives you a 3-die gun in the forward arc if you have a focus. So a lot of this really depends on having focuses. So this is a ship where you want to focus every single turn because that activates the extra die in your cannon, and then also activates is really powerful on defense. So another ship you want to pass extra focus tokens to when possible. But this is one where if you have the arc pointed backwards, you still have a full front arc. So it becomes a bow tie A-wing, which is awesome. And then there it is. The target assist algorithm really helps that out. I think I did see that. So that was really nice for the precision tuned cannons and also that defensive ability. Yeah, so you're changing 2 to eyeball results. You can only spend the calculate for 1, but still. And that being on your engage means you can spend your focus on defense, but then still have the mod for your eyeball if you have a bullseye shot, which is very cool. Really like this one. This one was also a 3-point. That's a great utility piece to have to grab objectives and just be kind of a bully, and a very effective one just for time on target. So I enjoyed Gemmer a lot. That's the one I was looking forward to the most kind of at the outset. I had convinced myself into trying out Tycho, but I will be sticking with the customizable one. One note on this, in case you didn't know, the custom loadouts are not affected by the standardized keyword. So if you have a standardized loadout with I think I probably said that wrong, but if you have a standardized loadout card that has vectored cannons, it's not standardized, so you can still include custom ships that don't. So you could have Gemmer in a squad with custom Tycho, and custom Tycho doesn't have to take vectored cannons. So just saying. It's a cool thing. Also, I did try the B-Wings. I didn't try Idan. I would like to try him at some point, I think, just because. Parting Gift is especially funny. He's also got Prockets. And then also, so here's the thing with these though. So I flew Gina and Braylen together, 5-point SL Gina, 4-point SL Braylen, which is funny they're reversed because you could do 4-point SL Braylen and then 4-point custom Gina to get kind of the most bang out of Braylen. Um, but all three of these B Wings really like being stressed. Like all of their abilities. So if you are stressed, roll one additional defense die. It was fantastic to have a 2 evade B Wing. Um, and then they have the gyro cockpit where they can get a free evade token, which is super cool. That is terrific. And then he's got proton bombs, he's got proton rockets. Gina is, of course, the most devastating of the three, so you understand why she's the 5-pointer. Because looking at this, if she is flying with Braylen, if she moves and then, say, does a focus barrel roll, then she's stressed with a focus token. But then on the engagement, on the start of engagement, if she's next to Braylen with a stress, range 0 to 2, she can then acquire a free lock, so focus lock, and then she can also, when she did that activation to gain the stress, use that gyro cockpit to spend 2 charges to gain an evade. So now you have a double modded proton torpedo with juke active. It is a devastating punch. It's an incredibly hard hitting ship. Has it's a trap for the defensive bonus, which doesn't help a whole lot because we only have 1 evade. And then ion bombs, which if you don't gain that evade token, you can also spend 1 charge every turn to drop a bomb out of the side, which is really cool. So yeah, ion bombs there. Yes, here. When you drop a device, you may spend 1 to set the template with its middle line aligned with the hash mark on your ship's left or right. So you can drop bombs on the sides of these, which makes them really interesting kind of flanky bomb delivery ships and makes it a little bit harder to get around them and avoid those bombs because they have 3 positions they could drop their bombs. But I was very, very disappointed in Braylen. So I think it's hard to justify. So it would probably be better to bring the custom Braylen and then the SL Gina, but that's 10 points for both of them. So that's kind of iffy. Action bar is exactly what you want. You can either roll to lock or you can focus to roll, both red, so you can gain those, you can benefit from the stress things and then also trigger Braylen as well. Braylen can also be double modded because he can do, so he can, let's see, he can roll to lock. So he wants to do the roll to lock instead of the focus to roll. And then if he has a target lock, and so he can lock. And this is one of the things I had the problem with flying these. So their abilities are opposite. They both say at the start of the engagement phase, if a friendly, for Gina it's Braylen, for Braylen it's Gina, ship at range 0 to 2 is stressed, you may, Gina acquires a lock, Braylen gains a focus token. So Braylen can actually have 2 focus tokens, which is cool. But then you get them both with a lock. Focus really easily, potentially an evade, awesome. I was incredibly disappointed that Braylen has homing missiles. For taking out an ace that has limited hit points, sure. I mean, that's great. It can choose to take a hit instead of taking the damage, but it means that his offensive output is extremely limited. Now you get the double modded, just plain old-fashioned primary shots that I was doing a lot. But I really wished he had some other kind of ordnance so you could deny those evade dice, because homing missiles was just a very disappointing piece of tech. It never delivered the way I wanted it. And I honestly struggled a lot that these were built exactly the same, except one has fuses, one doesn't. One has proton torpedoes, one has homing missiles, one has proton bombs, one doesn't. These two flew together and flew so similarly, and they actually have identical action bars, but that their abilities were backwards. It was really hard for me to keep them straight. Which one locks to get a focus from the other one? Which one focuses to get a lock from the other one? And that's just a matter of practice and familiarity. The biggest problem I had with these is, again, they're B-Wings. Dial sucks. They are encouraged to fly together, close together if you want to trigger It's a Trap, and fairly close together if you want to trigger their 0 to 2 triggers. That's a little bit easier, though, so you can just ignore It's a Trap and keep them kind of loosely together. And they hit really, really hard. They have a lot of hit points and can gain those free evade tokens every other turn. Yeah, they are good, but again, they have a bad dial, are always stressed and have no way to remove those stress tokens aside from doing blue maneuvers, and then have really, really bad or extremely predictable options if they are stressed. So all in all, I did not feel that either of these in any way fixes the B-Wing problem, and doubling down on that, it's a real bummer how much they depend on each other. So if you have another way to get Gina target locks, or another way to get her focus tokens. She's good alone, but they're really designed to fly together, which made it really challenging to consider like how would I build this with just one? How would I build it with either or? How would I build this with the 4-point versions? I just was not impressed. I don't think I will be flying these again. I flew a couple games with them and just I bumped them a lot. I missed with my bombs. I was missing triggers. But even when I got the perfect triggers and fired those dice, I was like, that was a really cool attack. And then they immediately died. So they are very hard hitting, but I don't know that they're very competitive. And they do not, as I was hoping, fix B-Wings. So yeah, that was a little disappointing. And a lot of that, again, is my personal playstyle struggles I had flying B-Wings, but even looking at the cards again now, I don't see anything that kind of redeems them. They still come in very, very expensive, especially since you have to take them together. And they don't offer a ton that you can't do better or cheaper in other ways. They're pretty cool for the scenario, which is awesome. I appreciate that they're designed for that. It's fun to have custom loadout, standardized loadout B-Wings. It's nice to see that, and I appreciate the characters themselves, but I will not be flying these again. I may try a Don Fox because of that extra defense die. That's cool. He's a much better independent operator. But proton rockets on an I-1 B-Wing? Nice, I guess. Still B-Wings. I was talking to someone else who strongly recommended that I try playing a B-Wing again, just a single B-Wing, the customizable 10 num, just to try that. And I will do that, I think, because he can spend his stress tokens, which is really good. So you end up with an actual like best in class AC B-Wing, because he can then every single turn he can gain a stress and then lose it before he moves the following turn. So he can do a bunch of red maneuvers, which is cool. That's a concept I like, and he has cannons instead of ordnance, so he's less target lock reliant. So I'll definitely be trying that at some point. But that's the thing. So the other next things I want to test are, of course, the X-wings. I'm sure you've all seen these, kind of talked about ad nauseum. I do really want to try this wedge. Still comes in at 5 points, but he's still an I6, and he doesn't have the ability to remove defense dice from the opponent, which is, it's a thing. But he does gain a focus token after he performs an attack that hits, so he can focus, spend it on offense, and then get one back, which is awesome. And he's hyper accurate, especially with that advanced proton torpedo. He's got R2A3, which is after you perform an action, you may spend one charge to acquire a lock. Single charge on that. And then he has, after you perform a boost action, gain a deplete token from the locked S foils. Then he's got Predator, and then he's got, of course, that defensive It's a Trap. Now, looking at this, it doesn't seem very impressive. He's got the advanced proton torpedoes. He doesn't have a reload. So the thing is, you would find an ideal turn where you're at range 1, and he's initiative 6, so you can call the shot anytime. So anytime during the game, you call your shot, you have range 1, you will acquire a lock. Yes, you will focus, and then you will use R2A3 to acquire a lock, and then you'll blast someone out of the sky with the advanced proton torpedoes, and then he's just an I6 X-Wing for the rest of the game. I still like custom wedge better, I think, but I got to try this. People are really excited about it, and that's quite the haymaker to have a double modded advanced proton torpedo on demand. That's real good. Watch out for this guy being blocked, because a lot of ships will want to block him. But then it's after you perform an action, so even if you coordinate him, R2A3 can trigger. So if you have a backup coordinator around there, or something that can just pass actions off in a more limited fashion, wedge is an extremely strong piece to pass those two. So that's pretty cool. Then we've got the I5 Endor. While you perform a primary attack, you may gain a strain token to reroll one of your blank results. Very nice. Also has plasma torpedoes, which doesn't work because it's not a primary attack, or doesn't work with that ability. Same thing where after you perform a boost, gain a deplete, and these all have focus linked to boost, which is a really nice combo, or barrel roll linked to focus. Those are both phenomenal linked actions. I like to see that. And they have white boosts as well. I believe my reading of that is if they do the linked boost, they still gain the deplete, which is a bummer, but yeah, it's there. Endor has the plasma torpedoes, and then also the stabilizing astromech. After you fully execute a maneuver, you may spend one charge to perform a white action even while stressed, which is cool. So you can do a red action, or you can do a K-turn, and then still do a target lock or a focus or a boost, which is really nice. I appreciate that kind of stuff. It's also somewhat limited in that it's only a single charge and no way to recharge it, which, that's a thing. Has those plasma torpedoes. The stabilizing astromech is really nice, even if it's one use. And the automatic mod to primary attack is really good, and it's better than Predator because you can choose to use it or not, and also you can it's always on. So I like that. Then we've got Kendi, the Initiative 4 X-Wing. This is after you spend a green token, you may choose a friendly ship at 1 to 3 and gain a strain token. If you do, that ship may perform a red focus or red evade action. So that right there is how you pass your focus tokens to your other ships. So that is really, if you're flying custom Tycho, or if you're flying SL Tycho, consider Kendi. Kendi's a really powerful piece to go ahead and pass those tokens to Tycho. Except I just realized that Kendi's Initiative 4, so it doesn't help because it'll be after after Tycho shoots, because he's I5. So womp womp. Yeah, brutal. Man. Okay. It's a trap, has ion missiles, has the modified R4P, which is before you execute a red maneuver, you may spend 1. If you do while you execute that maneuver, reduces difficulty. Again, a single use, but really, really cool one to have on this. Similar to Endor, except slightly better because you can start the next turn not stressed. Yeah, you don't get the bonus action, but you then treat that maneuver. It's a built-in Leia, which is nice. Again, single charge doesn't recharge. That one also has the chaff particles defensive piece where you can spend an eyeball result to remove 1 red or orange token. That's a really, really handy ability. It also doesn't say non-lock. So you can clear a stress, or you can just remove target locks from yourself if people are missing shots on you, which is really nice. You get lucky and a Vader whiffs against you, because that happens. You could use chaff to dump his lock and really kind of mess with his priorities next turn. So there's a lot of utility in these. They're on the expensive side, and I don't see that much in them, but I'm definitely going to fly Wedge because I really just like Wedge, and we'll see how it goes. I hear a lot of chatter about how great that card is, so I might just be missing something. Yeah, and that is all of these, and we'll see how it goes. Yeah, oh my god, I love this Lando. I got to try this Lando, especially now that Han is a little bit nerfed, although I am still practicing Han as well, or we'll get back to that after I'm done kind of burning through all the battle over Endor cards. Anyway, that's it. Oh, last note on this. I did also fly against Endor. Let me actually see if that preview is still up or linkable from here. Battle over Endor. No. Poking around a little bit. Should be easy enough to get to that. I did fly against the Initiative 6 TIE Defender. That was a absolute monster. So there's X-Wing, transmissions, and they should both be here. Rebel preview. Imperial preview. Yeah, and I only flew against the one, so I can't speak too much to all of these, but there's some really cool tech in the Battle over Endor Imperial stuff, especially, where are you? There you are. Oh man, that Soontir fell. Woo! I love it. It was Jendon, Colonel Jendon, the Initiative 6, the one who can spend a shield. Yeah, after you fully execute, you may perform a lock action for free after you do a fast maneuver. While attacking, if you're not stressed, you may spend a shield to apply the range 1 bonus. That was triggered many times in our games. I was playing B-Wings and A-Wings, where the A-Wings were kind of all over the place. And the TIE Defender was hunting down my B-Wings, like you do. And so very frequently had shots where there was no reason not to spend shields. So I think in one game he spent 2 different shields over the course of the game, every other turn to fire the proton cannons. So throwing a 5-die proton cannon with a target lock and usually a focus is terrifying, especially since he's got a built-in defensive ability if he's unshielded, which is really, really good, obviously. And then also has that push the limit. After you fully execute a red maneuver or perform a red action, if you're not strained, you may gain 1 strain to remove 1 stress token. Wow, wow, wow. Also that no escape to go ahead and punish ships if they're out by themselves. Yeah. Computer assisted handling. After you fully execute a maneuver, you may spend 1 charge, so only 1 non-recurring charge, to perform a boost or barrel roll action. Oof. So looking at this thing, so he does a 3 to 5 maneuver, right? Free target lock. And then also, say that was a red maneuver. Instead of taking the stress, you take a strain. So now you can do your normal action, but then you also get that computer-assisted handling to do the booster barrel roll. So you have a target lock, you can booster barrel roll, and then you can do your normal action, whether that's the other of the booster barrel roll or a focus or an evade, or you can do the boost. So let's do this again. So does the 3 to 5, switches the stress to a strain, gets a free target lock, computer-assisted handling to do a boost, and then does an evade action, links it to a red barrel roll. So you now have locked, boosted, evaded, barrel rolled in a single turn. You can only do that once, but you can do most of that multiple times. My God. But the proton cannon is an incredibly powerful weapon, even if you're shooting it every other turn, to be able to throw 5 dice with that, because cannons do get the range 1 bonus. You just never see it on proton cannons because they are not a range 1 cannon, they're range 2 to 3. But if you're shooting at range 2 to 3 with this guy, you can spend that shield to throw 5 dice. So it's really, really powerful. And on initiative 6 that has the reposition actions to line up those shots, that is a scary piece. It was cool to see it. There are ways to work around it. It's not that tough, and it's fun to play, but it's also not impossible to avoid that bullseye with proton cannons. And it's not great if it's outnumbered, which it's going to be because it's very expensive. So yeah, cool ship. Yeah, wow, cool to see that. I love to see the reference to push the limit, which was a staple trait back in the day in 1.0. Yeah, cool ship. So that was it. Those are the ships I've flown so far. I will drop another video if I play the others. Cheers. Curious to hear how your experiences went with these.